This episode is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/Gamebreaker. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 21 of Unicorn Duck Shadow Puppet, the WildStar show right here on Gamebreaker.tv. Today, we're going to talk about cross-realm dungeons. Paid beta is a no-go, and no cross-server economics. All that and more, but first, joining us, as always, Mr. Farhan Siddiqui. How are you, sir?
Hello. Good to have you back, Gary.
Thank you. Good to be back. Yeah, it's been quite a while, a couple episodes, so good to be back. And joining us from the Guild Umbra Man Cave, Bat Cave, Mr. Mark Taylor. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Welcome back. Look at chat. Like, they are so happy to see you.
Happy to see them. I missed the chats. What's up, everybody? We're back ready to talk about some WildStar shenanigans. Let's see what's going on since I've left. So first up, let's see. Carbine crossed the streams for WildStar Wednesday. So we knew that WildStar would support cross-realm play, but so we have some details now about how this is actually going to work. So you'll be able to talk to people across realms by whispering the character name, and the realm name. So kind of like, little take on the Twitter thing. So you're going to be able to put the character name in, symbol, and the realm name, and you'll be able to talk to people across realm. I would presumably you'll be able to add that person to a friends list, so you won't have to do that every time. I would hope, maybe. Do we know?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that you would be able to, and because at the very least, if they didn't let you do that, then someone would come up with a mod of that, like day one, and then
there you go.
Have your crossover friends list. Yay, modding! Yay!
Hey, add-on. What's that?
Development for the win.
Yeah, I don't think they didn't mention that in the blog post, though, right?
I mean, they didn't explicitly say whether or not the friends list would be something that would be cross-realm as well, but I think if you have the possibility to do whispering, then just from a development standpoint, that opens up the whole can of worms to having mods communicating cross-realm, because any mod that wanted to, you could set it up to then, use the whisper system to send data back and forth across realms.
So sounds like it should be a pretty easy mod for somebody to come up with. So if this is not in game, I'm saying probably day one of mods. Carbine also confirmed that names would be unique per realm, which I would think most people are pretty happy about. Does anybody have an issue with this? I don't think so.
Nope. Pretty standard.
Do we know if Carbine are allowing second names?
I don't think that's been said.
I think that they had a little bit of a discussion about whether or not, like how names would work, and I'm like, okay, so I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm like 90% sure that they said that there probably won't be second names, but I mean, in that discussion, it came up the whole like robot names thing. Remember, like having numbers.
Oh yeah, numbers.
So you would have that option, but you wouldn't have the second name necessarily.
Second name is how it worked in Guild Wars 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's nice to give yourself that second name to open up the barrier so that you don't have to have, like, weird symbols in order to get exactly the name you want, or slight misspellings, or other kinds of things like that usually happen in games that don't let you have a second name. Because, like, if you have that second name, then it's just a lot easier to get your first name at least be exactly what you want, and then have, like, a slightly different second name, which usually, unless you're exactly copying, like, some copyrighted character, which you shouldn't do anyway.
Did you guys have trouble with that? Do you have trouble with people stealing your name? I have a pretty unique name, but people have obviously gotten it, and it becomes a real pain in the ass when somebody steals my name. Because for years, nobody stole my name. It was ever. I don't remember where I got it, but I love my name, and people start stealing it.
I gotta like get in there super fast to get like Lord Hammer or Hammer or some crap like that. So for this game, I'm probably gonna have to come up with something completely unique.
I usually don't have a problem with Unindel, but then when I do the like sometimes I use top, and that's almost impossible.
Oh, that's impossible.
Yeah,
that's
I
harder
didn't get
than
in Guild
Lord
Wars 2, though.
Hammer.
I had top. They should just top without his last name. In Guild Wars 2, I had that, so I was happy with myself.
Yeah,
as opposed to top with like 6 P's behind it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll also be able to party with your cross-realm friends in the same way that you can whisper them. However, it doesn't mean that you can run around in the open world with your buddies. Now, does it?
No.
And there's no spillover server that we know of to go explore together, right?
Pretty standard server tech as far as the way that open world works. Like, you choose your shard or your realm or whatever you want to call it, and then for any open world partying or grouping or doing content together, you are limited to whoever also picked that exact same realm. But then as far as other content goes that isn't in the open world, then that is what cross-realm grouping would be useful for.
What do you guys think of that system? Did you kind of expect something this sort of standard? Especially, I mean, about overflows, things like that. I mean, especially coming off of Guild Wars 2, which was kind of a unique setup.
So
I really wish that...
Matt,
Sorry, go ahead.
After you.
Okay, I really wish that they had like an option to do like a open world guesting kind of thing, like so that you could guest onto the other person's server and then play there. Maybe like limit it so that if there's a queue, then you're not allowed to guest, but otherwise, then you're able to just to keep the server population overflow like from being a problem. I didn't actually like Guild Wars 2's like overflow server thing because then for like the first few weeks when it was actually a problem, I didn't.
You're always getting stuck in there.
Yeah, it was hard to get a hold of my stuff, and I didn't feel like there was any. I didn't feel like, okay, I'm on this server. I feel like there's like a community there. I just felt like, okay, I'm in overflow servers 99% of the time. So, and anyone that I actually tried to like interact with people that I would see in the open world, like talking to them, which was hard to do anyway because almost no one paid attention to chat. But when I did, then like most of the time they'd be like, oh, I'm not actually on your server. I'll never see you again. Goodbye. So yeah.
The interesting thing, and probably show my ignorance on this, is will you be able to have cross-server circles, right? Because one thing that we kind of haven't really kind of talked about or set up, I guess, in our notes prior to the show is the fact that the classic conundrum of you got a billion people who all want to get on the same server, and that's just not going to happen because they're going to have population maxes. So one of the good things about this communication system is that if they release the server names prior to launch, which sometimes happens, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes betas have different names, code names, and then when the game launches you got new ones. But let's just assume, in the sake of argument, that they have the servers populated, or the names posted, rather. Guilds and alliances can now say, okay, we're going to be on this server, and in this second server is our spillover server, which is basically where we're going to go, form up secondly, and then maybe a third as a backup. But the point is are we going to be able to have circles that go across that? Because then you could just say, for example, Guild Armor 1, Guild Armor 2, but you could have like the one Guild Armor circle, that way everyone can kind of coordinate. And then
I really hope we have something like, I'm over servers. I've been over servers. I mean, when's the last game that you really felt that you had a true allegiance to your server? Like, I don't really care. I have an allegiance to my
SWG?
guild. Yeah, it's been years. I mean, I have an allegiance to my guild, my group, and I want to make sure that I can play with them no matter what. So I'm kind of over. So I know people still are holding on to the whole server creates community thing, but does it? Does it really?
That's an antiquated concept. So you're right. You're totally right. And the tech has been there for years. Look at Eve with Tranquility, right? Heck, Elder Scrolls is building the mega server, to get over that, right? So the tech is there. Just what I think is the boundary is they're trying to create PvP servers and PvERP servers, and so they're letting the way people want to play be that boundary, right? But they're really, with phasing technologies and the way that they can really scale out.
So what is it with PvPs that you need to feel like you need to have like sort of an allegiance to a certain sect? Couldn't you just create these like sort of artificial banners that you sign up under for a PvP season and become, hey, I am a part of this? Like, if that's really all it is a title, yeah, hey, I'm a part of this sect, and then for the PvP season, you're playing with that group of people. But who cares about the server?
You're right. I mean, it really just gets around it's a matter of religion, right? When you're talking about these kind of texts, it's like it's almost a religious discussion, and people are going to get really really staunch about it, and I would argue and go so far as to just say that that's just probably prisoners of process to some degree in terms of how they're going to initially architect how to build out the capability. But I think also there's a large amount of really skilled PvP players that only play on PvE servers, just for the fact that they do not want to deal with open world PvP. So they want to have their leveling experience completely unhindered, and then when they care to PvP, they go to arenas or battle zones, or they go to some instance. And so, like, I had a guy in my guild who I've been playing with for 6 years, who basically told me he's not gonna roll on our PvP server with us. He's just gonna roll on another server, join another guild. He's gonna leave on good terms. But the point is he does not want to be on a PvP server. So I mean, it is something that's that dramatic, right?
Now let me. I'm going to harken back to those Star Wars Galaxies days again, because well, here was a system. I'm just trying. I like it. Maybe there was a really bad reason to have this, but what was so wrong with flagging for PvP? What was so wrong with going to a terminal and say, "Hey, I'm either going to flag myself for PvP or not," and then you're still playing in the same area, and if you're not flagged, then you just don't engage.
So. Again, I would agree with you because I thought it was a good system. So the pushback I get is the fact that there's a lot of instances or occurrences or things that you can do that accidentally flag you. So, for example, a dude is busted up and you throw a heal on him. Well, now because you healed him, you're now flagged for PvP even though you didn't want to. And then he might have been running with a pack of people behind him, so you heal him because he's your buddy. You just flagged yourself. He just made it out of dodge. And now you get your ass kicked by 6 guys who just come over the hill because you just flagged yourself. Because the problem normally is you get flagged, or even if you flag yourself, then you're usually stuck with like a 10-minute timer to unflag. Even after you click to unflag, you're kind of stuck. And obviously they do that as an artificial mechanism, so you don't flag yourself, own somebody, and then deflag or whatever.
I guess the other solution then could be to just sort of pick PvE or PvP server at the set of when you create your character, and that's it. And that's, I don't know, and we could talk about this forever.
So,
I just like some of these systems are still a little antiquated.
Wanted to get like a couple of cents in here, but basically, I feel like you guys are so like both of you guys are usually playing these games as part of a very large established community already. So you already have a lot of people that you're usually playing with a lot of the time, whereas for most of the games, when I join it, I join a guild after I've started playing the game. It's pretty rare that I actually go into an MMO already knowing which group of people I'm going to play with.
That's how you used to do it. Now you're going to be in Gamebreaker Nation.
I know, but
wow, he did the plug for me. He did the plug for me. Nice, good job, Gamebreaker Nation. There you go.
I'm trying to express like why server could establish a community though, because like I said, I tried to talk to people in Guild Wars 2 and sort of like reach out to them and be like, oh hey, like you're playing like this, let's play together a little bit longer. And because of the overflow thing, I actually couldn't continue to play with them after the fact, even if I wanted to. Well, it was, I guess I could have like tried to like add them to our friends list and then like do the whole thing, but it was a lot more convoluted, and 99% of the time it didn't end up happening. So if you actually want to like meet people and then do that thing, when you have such a huge variety of people that you're gonna meet, and you're very rarely gonna run into the same people again, because what happens when you have dynamic servers? I mean, the facts are that the technology is still limited in the fact of how many people can be in a dynamic shard or whatever at the same time. So the people that you're gonna run into from time to time, it's going to be rare that you're going to run into them again the next time you get into like another dynamic shard. I mean, you might.
Sure, but isn't it a pretty easy solution to something like that? Is just making like these circles a lot easier and like as simple as a right click on the person and add.
I think that circles could be the kind of thing, but I mean, a lot of the time for me, I didn't make friends with somebody the first time that I ended up near them. Like I do something with them, like in WoW. A lot of time before they added the looking for group dungeon finder thing. When I didn't make friends with people the first time I ended up in a dungeon group with them. It was like, okay, 2 or 3 times, and then we all realized, oh, we're all decent at this game. We're not wiping a lot, kind of thing. That's when I became friends with them, and I started playing with them more. And so it's not necessarily going to be the fact that, okay, like even if you make it really easy, you just right click on the person's name and then you got their cross realm friended kind of thing with a dynamic server. If you don't run into them repeatedly, you might not actually end up having the chance to become friends with them.
Yeah,
So-
I see your point, but I don't know if there's any solution that would ever be perfect, though, right? I mean, it's like
I mean, no, but
because really what we're talking about now, we're talking about social circles of who Farhan wants to be friends with. Like that's really what we're now. It's like who do you how do your personalities sort of mesh sort of situation? Not no clicking scenario is going to be perfect there. So, yeah, I don't know. I hopefully the circles to me sounds like a pretty good solution, especially if you can do it cross realm stuff. So basically what's going to happen, that if I understand this right, so you're going to form up a group, but then you're each individually going to have to sort of like make your way to like a dungeon or a battleground or something on your own server. And at that point, we all meet up in the same instance. Is that correct?
Yep.
so once you're actually in the instance content, then that's the point where you'll actually be able to see each other and like buff each other or do whatever you wanted to do.
I mean, what do you think?
Kind
Pretty
of-
solid system or what?
I think it works.
I think that it's going to be great for a number of different reasons, and obviously the proof is in the pudding, so we'll have to either get in a beta or play it and really find out. But the great thing gets kind of back what I was saying earlier is like, let's say that your guild is just too big to be on one server, or day one, not everybody, and even a small guild could just get on the same server. It's still some mechanism, as artificial as it is, to at least group together in dungeons. I mean, some people like to level together just to, kill 10 rats or open up, the fog of war of whatever area you're in. But if nothing else, being able to do instances, that's normally where I would argue 70+% of the fun is, doing the dungeon, the raid, the instance PvP. That, to me, that's really where, the relationships are built. And so at least they've given us that. And then over time, I would think they're either going to optimize the servers to allow bigger numbers so then people can then move their accounts over, or, there'll be attrition and, normally, guilds and things will filter themselves out over time, right? 5-6 months or whatever. But now they've taken the stress out, because that was a stress of mine as a guild leader. They've taken that artificial stress out, because now I'll just be like, well, get to max level and we'll raid on this day. And now I don't have to worry about where all my cats and dogs are,
Now, what about this, though, to throw a slight wrench in the whole system? Well, not a wrench, but you're not going to be able to trade cross-realm to protect the economies of the realms. Now, how are you going to deal with that, Mark, as a guild leader and running raids
So
and things like that?
that's going to be an interesting thing in terms of, how loot gets distributed. So that is, an issue, and I'm sure they're gonna have to come up with something to try to figure it out. If nothing else, maybe they'll, do something like they'll create some kind of loophole scripting. I don't know. I got my theory craft hat on, right? Maybe
That's all
they'll
we can
come up
do.
with something- Yeah, maybe they'll do something that, for the purposes of raids, they'll allow people who might, let's say that only, and I'm making this up, warrior weaponry drops, right? And then for whatever reason, the warriors are on that server, right? You got to be able to do something so that you don't punish that person. Like maybe if they give you a token that you can turn in to get gear, I don't know. They've got to figure that out, because that is going to be a problem.
I don't really follow. So are you saying that if the gear dropped, that if you're on a different server, you wouldn't be able to roll on it or something?
Well, they keep saying, or maybe I'm misunderstanding the way I read it, but there was something that you can't have cross-server
Trading. So
trading.
like, I assume
So
that meant
it's-
like right-clicking on their name and opening a trade window and then trading like an item or gold.
Sure, but how
or-
many times has that happened in a raid? I mean, constantly people are like, hey, I need like, some food or like, some whatever. Or, if somebody ends up getting an item that maybe somebody else wants and like you realize after the fact and you're like, hey, I got this. Hey, Mom, this would be better. Take this. I shouldn't have.
I mean, Warcraft
shouldn't have
has
said I
that
don't
right
need
now,
it.
though, right? So like in Warcraft, you can have the cross-server grouping for some stuff, and you can like give conjured items that are gonna like disappear after you log off anyway. Or you could like after an item drops, you have 2 hours to trade it within anyone in the raid group, even if they are cross-server. So I mean, there's like workarounds like that they could use something similar.
Sure, we haven't heard about it in them yet. That's the interesting thing, is I think if there's just no cross realm trading whatsoever, that could pose a little bit of a problem.
I mean, the thing that you're going to have to do is just make sure that you have good raid rules, right? Nobody touch the loot. Let the raid leader make sure that it's a sword for a warrior. Make sure that whoever wins the roll, because let's hope they have something as simple as slash roll, that person can then go pick it up. So there might be like that rule where you can pick up something that drops in the world, but once a person has gained possession of the item, they can't trade it, right?
Yeah. What happens for the guy who just greeds everything like me and then wants to sell it back to you?
Start breaking everything down into chips. Oh, sorry, it's already broken down. I can't give you the item anymore. It's a spent chip. So sorry.
Now, for those out there who do want to hold on to that sort of server, I guess, camaraderie, you are going to be able to disable the looking cross realm on the group finder, so you'll actually be able to turn that off if you really want to keep that server community feel. You've still got it. Do you think a lot of people are going to do this?
I think it depends on how much longer it ends up taking to find a group within your server. If it's significant,
do you think guilds would? Do you think guilds are going to? Some guilds would make it mandatory that you have to turn this off or on. Like, do you think?
I think it'd be rare.
Yeah,
it would make it mandatory.
Anything can happen, but I think it's just one of those things about we're moving. It's 2013. It's getting ready to be 2014. We're moving forward in time, and that's just an old way of doing things because that was the limitation of the technology at the time. And so, of course, people are going to come up with pride. Oh, that's my server, because you don't really have any other options, until like later when they gave you the option to do cross-server stuff. So, that was just the old way of thinking. Nowadays, especially with social media and the way they're developing the games to kind of interact across server and out from within the confines of the game to the exterior world through social media, you're just not bound anymore, So I think a lot of the newer, younger players, probably people under 30, are going to just not care, right? I think it's probably something that just an older generation, and maybe I may be wrong, but I just think it's something that an older generation will hold on to as some artificial thing to care about, right?
I'm kind of with you in that camp. I'm definitely in that camp. I'm watching chat room and they are bringing up, I know a lot of people in Final Fantasy 14 are asking for that, and they're sort of current, I think, working on something like for that with like message board, things like that in game. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe just different people play different ways, so maybe it is worth having. Go ahead, Farhan.
How would a rivals list work if you had like open world cross server stuff? Like, would you really become rivals with somebody on the other side if it's going to keep mixing them up and doing that kind of thing? Like, I think that there's a lot of things that they have in their design that sort of works out pretty well when you have like a more limited community that you're playing with for a lot of the open world content.
Maybe it does. Maybe it does get too muddied, and maybe you don't really, maybe you just can't remember all the different guilds, and maybe those like subsections of leaderboards of PvP and stuff like that, and people trying to fight against other guilds and stuff gets lost with too many people. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I kind of.
So this happened a lot in some PvP in like World of Warcraft and in Star Wars when I played PvP and it didn't have the cross realm stuff at first. Then I recognized people by their guild tag. But when I had World of Warcraft PvP and I was playing and it was by server, then I was recognizing people by their server. I'm like, oh, these people are from this server, they suck. Or these people are really good, they're from that server. And it's like a generalization that obviously can't extend to a whole server, but people were still doing it, right? They're like, oh no, Proudmoore, no, or something like that. And it would happen. And so I feel like it's a lot harder to keep track of guild tags, especially when like a guild tag that isn't like very like famous or infamous or whatever, like across, when you have that many guilds, or you have like the possibility of having a guild with the same name across different servers, like which one's which or something like that. So I don't know.
But there are so many guilds that got kind of the same name. Like, how many games have you played where there's the Legion or the Brotherhood or the Black Hand? There's like 8 billion.
You don't remember those ones. You remember the original ones.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, there's like 8 billion, guilds that all use like some derivation of the exact same name. So at some point, that's the whole reason why I'm saying, it just really matters on A, are they in your alliance, or B, are they the targets that you're shooting in PvP? It no longer matters about the server. the server's not your boundary or your constraint or the characteristic that has any, value on who you are. Because no matter what server you're on, it's not going to give you pluses or minuses unless they build that into the system that I don't know about. You know what I mean? It's all going to be about that individual character, that player. Maybe the guild might, be reputable or not reputable, or just, got a popular name, but, does it mean that they're good or not, So whatever.
There's one really odd, weird thing in this blog post. So they talked about instance content, like battlegrounds, dungeons, and arenas. But they also mentioned redacted in all caps in the same sentence. Now, does anybody have any idea what this is? I mean, we already know about war plots and ship hands, so that can't be it. I mean, what is redacted?
They're probably working on some new instance, interaction. I mean, heck, they came out with ship hands, which is a really great name. So, I'm just saying they're probably working on just some other instance or some other version of PvP, right?
I mean, just the fact that war plots and adventures weren't explicitly mentioned in that sentence, just to me says, okay, we haven't given our full reveal, our like WildStar Wednesday about this type of content yet. So even though it's out there and there's little bits of information, we're just gonna throw redacted in there. That's my thought.
I mean, do you think that there's like this final type of instance group content that we just don't even know about yet that hasn't been revealed?
I don't think it's necessarily something new. I just think it's something that we don't have details on yet, and that's upcoming. That's my thought.
Or just ship hands is the greatest name in the history of names, and they just want to re-announce it. I don't know something. Another thing that isn't mentioned is cross-realm guilds or circles. So
yeah, I mean, and I kind of, I guess, spilled the beans on that earlier in the show, just kind of talk about it, because I'm just wondering, I mean, the whole concept of having a circle, which is very, similar to like a link shell on Final Fantasy, right? It's just some kind of way or some kind of chat, for people to organize, group, and have some kind of similarity, some kind of quality. So it's it's a great thing for alliances. It's even a great thing for if they allow cross-faction talking to coordinate. Hey, let's your guild and our guild meet here, and we'll have some epic battle on Saturday.
What will you do?
Right?
What will Umber do if they don't have that?
Just reach out to the guilds. Go to their website, hit them up on Skype in the real world, or email or Twitter or something, and I just contact them directly, and we organize it. And 9 times out of 10, the guilds that we're hating on totally have large levels of respect, man to man or man to woman or whatever, just as an adult, and be like, hey, we're just here trying to have fun. We just want to have a big battle, and I can't do it 5 on 17 or something. I want to get like you're 50 against my 50 or 100, and I only got 20, so I got to call an alliance or something. And that's how you organize just really fun events. And at the end of the day, as long as we can meet on a level of respect, that this is a game, we want to have fun. Shit's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna talk smack. It's gonna get ugly. But as long as we can organize it and keep it adult, you can have some amazing times. Because again, going back to SWG, remember how amazing it was that you back in SWG, you could go and you could break and destroy and take down a bunker or a base of rebels if you were Imperial. I mean, we used to do that weekly. And it used to be so much fun that like at the end of like destroying their base, we would all email money to the opposing faction so that they could buy a new base, so that we could blow it up like in another week or two, and then they would give us money and we'd build one, because we had to create some kind of event so that we could have some crap to do.
Wow, you guys were nice. We just ran them off the server. We just said, screw you. We just kept blowing up your shit until you left or turned to the dark side like you should.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that as sooner or later
our server died. Yeah, we had nothing to do. You're right.
Yeah.
You had the better choice for sure. We had nothing left to do. We're like, all right, we dominated our server. Everybody's gone now. What do we do?
Yeah, so I mean, so you have to kind of go through these artificial means to create a really great experience. Because it's much better to fight each other. I mean, unless you're in such big guilds that hate each other. Of course, I can't even think, like Goon Swarm and whatever that other group was, and Eve, and then there was, the big World of Warcraft guys. They're so big that they hate each other like in real life. Like if they were probably to meet each other,
knife each other,
event, they'd fight probably in real life. Who knows? But, I just want to have fun. I want to get in there, I want to have fun, and we can consistently have fun if we can kind of agree to kind of control the madness. You can let it go by itself as far as it'll go, but usually it'll get to a point where they exhaust one another, or they exhaust the resources, or it gets kind of uneven. But if you can kind of set up, events like we're going to meet here on this day and we're going to fight, normally it's fun because then you know what you're getting. You can kind of organize it. You can set it up. Sometimes you can also get set up for failure because they'll come up with like 16 other guilds that you didn't know about.
Now I want to know if there's ever been a real life Goon Swarm Bob knife fight. Because I guarantee at some convention somewhere, somebody has punched one of the opposing guilds. I would think that's probably happened. All right, I want to talk about the possibility of paid beta in WildStar, but first I want to tell you guys about a deal we got going on with Shutterstock. Love having Shutterstock on as sponsors to make UDSP and all of the other Gamebreaker shows possible. If you guys have not checked out Shutterstock, they got thousands and thousands of stock photography, vector artwork, footage, movie footage, things like that. I was like showing you guys how we use it here at Gamebreaker. That we're working on the Gamebreaker Nation, which is our cross gaming guild community that Mark Taylor so nicely threw out there. GamebreakerNation.com. Make sure you put the www right in front of it. If you guys want to go sign up for now, you can put your email address. But we're working on the website to get it launched, and we were working on the logo over the weekend, actually. And so what we decided to do is come up with a bunch of different variations of the logo and kind of put it out there for the community because it's all about the community. So see what they wanted to vote on. Here's some of the things we came up with. We started out, we had a lion, dragon, griffin, but it's called Lion 2, a fist, like a knight, and a helmet. So those are the different variations that we kind of modified the Gamebreaker logo with. Every single one of these modifiers, guess what, came from Shutterstock. I can't go through them all, but I'll show you. Like literally just went over to Shutterstock and typed in like dragon vector. Vector for you guys looking for like artwork that you can scale. Vectors are awesome. They come in Adobe Illustrator format, and you can blow them up or make them smaller, and they don't lose any detail whatsoever. They're not a JPEG. So search dragon vector and just started looking, got a lot of different Asian theme ones, a lot of cartoonesque kind of ones. And then this one here, just boom, look at how perfect that dragon was. It was just like in a box, ready to go. It was just like staring at us, going like, there's the Gamebreaker logo right there. And grabbed that, threw it in, and you guys unanimously voted that one as the logo. That was the winner, by the way. The dragon was the winner by I think let me actually look. I think it was close to 50%. 47.5% chose the dragon there. So again, just another way that when we're creating like artwork and stuff like this, if you guys have a guild website, a YouTube page, or anything like that, you're looking to create a logo for, check out Shutterstock. You can go and make an account absolutely for free. You don't need to put a credit card in. You can just start looking around and searching for stuff and saving things to light boxes. And then there's different plans when you're ready to purchase. There's a couple different plans. You can go for a monthly plan where you download X number of images per day. That's what we do because we use it a lot. If not, you can go by image. I think one of the lowest plans they might have is like 2 high-res images, I think is a plan for like $29 or something. It's really affordable. But want to save you guys 25% off on your account. All you got to do is make sure to use promo code Gamebreaker10 on the checkout when you set up and set up your account. Just use Gamebreaker10. You're going to save 25% off. Check it out, Shutterstock.com. All right, so Jeremy Gaffney spoke about the possibility of a paid beta on the WildStar Central forums. Hopefully his answer is yes, we're going to absolutely do it because I can't get my hands on a damn key. Here's what he had to say. He said there are no plans right now to do paid betas for WildStar per se. Are you guys against this? Before I keep going, are you against paid betas? I love it these days. I'm just like, I can go to Steam and just like pre-alpha get in. Yes, please, I'll do it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, if I could whip out my credit card right now and get in, I would.
I totally would.
Sort of take the standpoint that if a game can avoid doing it, then I would prefer for them to actually avoid it, because I don't like the responses that people get of like, oh no, it's down. I paid X number of dollars for access to this beta. How dare you have it be down? Or something like that. Like it's just. I mean, like, obviously you can just ignore that kind of thing and be like, okay, whatever. But it's just one more thing that the developers have to deal with. And
True.
They actually want to avoid, like, oh, we don't actually want to have this much downtime and all this other kind of thing. So it's just one more hassle on the developer. I feel like the game would come out faster if they could avoid it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that they're not even going to do an open beta, like, in the traditional sense, because, I mean, having discussions with them, they say that, like, 60 or some ridiculously large percentage of folks that go into beta just play the game, and they use it, like, shopping through the mall, but they don't actually provide any test feedback. So I don't think that that's what they want to do, and so letting somebody pay to do it is just, that on crack, right? So they want people who are going to actually try to break their game and try to find fault with it and do the same repetitious things over and over and over again. And, the bottom line is a lot of that's really not fun. Have some detailed conversations with folks who are in Q&A. It gets old after a while. It's not fun, and so I mean, a lot of people don't really want to do what's really truly required for beta. So, I mean, I guess I could see their point, because they don't want people to just look at it. And then, God forbid, someone goes in there and be like, oh, this is buggy, and I'm not going to buy this game. Yeah, asshole, because it's in beta, you dummy. They're just not.
But that'll happen. Like, people will do that.
That will absolutely happen, for sure, yeah. And it's actually really interesting looking at a lot of the Kickstarter games, like a Camelot Unchained and stuff like that. Like, they're letting people in really early, and I even talked to Mark Jacobs about that and said, aren't you scared like of letting people see behind the curtain like that early? Like, yeah, but that's the route we're gonna go. We're gonna, but yeah, the potential for a lot of people not to be able to differentiate between like what a true alpha and what a game is at a certain state, it's tough. But well, WildStar's not gonna do it apparently. So it says there are no plans right now to do paid betas for WildStar per se. My opinion personally, as a gamer, I'm a bit torn on paid betas. They worked great for Minecraft, etc., but I think done poorly, they'd leave a bad taste in one's mouth. And I do agree with that statement. He says, Notch used the money to make a better game, but bigger publishers seem like they should take the heat themselves. Now, as budgets have risen, you're seeing bigger and bigger games coming out with more and more risk. And I'm sure in general, publishers would like to take some of the heat off. So I totally see where he's coming. It's like, of course, the investors and stuff would be like, sure, let's do a paid beta. Let's get some money flowing. Let's see that line changing early. But I do agree. It definitely can leave a bad taste in a lot of players' mouths who really, just are like, this game is completely broken, when in reality, they still have a ton of work to do and the game's just going to be just fine. Yeah, I don't know. You can make arguments, I think, for both sides.
I think that if it was something that was essentially just a very long, like, early access that you call a beta kind of thing, like they're pretty sure that it's ready to go, and then they just want to, just in case, call it beta or something like that, I guess that would be okay. But it's just, I feel like having it actually be in a phase where it is real beta, which is what Carbine's doing right now, right? They're doing a real beta right now, and like doing it at this point, where I think that could be catastrophic, especially for a new IP with that's unproven, that's trying to do what Carbine's trying to do. I feel like they want to be safe here.
Yeah, they're not doing a real beta until Gamebreaker is in. So until I'm logging in, they're just not doing a real beta. They're doing it wrong. So send me a beta key and we'll do it right.
It's just game testing. It's not even alpha or beta.
Does Guild
Can't
Umber
use
do
those terms anymore?
I don't know if you can talk about this, but I guess you could talk about past stuff. But does Guild Umber do any sort of guild testing for guilds? Have you done that?
Yeah, we do. We've done a substantial amount. It ebbs and it flows, clearly, but I mean, we've done alphas, we've done betas. We're in, some betas right now. Can't talk about it. We've even done with a couple of games systems testing. So like stuff that's so pre-alpha that like there's no textures on the walls. Like so you're like walking through the cities and you're just grids, and your character has no color. You're just grids. So we've got a chance to do some.
How do you deal with that
really,
on a guild level? Do you just like, is everyone basically in Umbra a part of it if they're part of that sector? Do you actually pick and choose like down individually the people who can participate in that sort of thing?
So I ask people who are not dumbasses that I trust that have passed like my dumbass test.
Now there's all these like guild Umbra like members being like, is he calling me a dumbass?
Wait a minute, I'm not in game testing. You suck, Hammer. Anyway.
I'm a dumbass, Mark.
What? So we have like meetings. And we have like secret TeamSpeak servers and stuff like that, so that if you go to our guild site, normally most guilds will have like TeamSpeak or Vent like down on the right hand side, and you can see who's logged in. Well, guess what? We have another one that is not publicly out there, so you won't be able to see who's testing and stuff like that. But yeah, we're going through a number of tests right now for a number of the games that people are wanting to play. I'll leave it like that.
Interesting.
Now the reason and the way that we get to do that, and other guilds can do that, is just obviously you gotta have a guild that has interacted with the community, probably done some fan site interactions, gone to shows and spoken with these folks, and just again prove that you're not a dumbass. And then on top of that, I mean, I've got people in my guild that got PhDs from MIT, and a lot of people with MBAs, so we build up formalized business plans like, hey, we want to help you make this game successful. These are the specific areas that we are experienced in testing, that we can help you, and then upon next iteration we can help you with regression testing to make sure that your new bug, your new fix didn't break something that got fixed in the last patch. So you show them with charts and things. So I mean, it's actually professional package. Not all companies care about that. Some other are just like, oh, I know you from this other game that I got laid off of, after a year. You were not an asshole, so I'm gonna work with you again. So again, it's all about, are you a dumbass? If you're not, if you are, you're not gonna get in. If you're smart and you just act respectful and you approach a person on a human level, that goes a long way. And then, can you keep your mouth shut? Can you keep a secret?
Yeah. Chat room wants to know. Chat room's wondering if we could have a rank in the Gamebreaker Nation for dumbasses. I'll see if I can make that happen, because that would be pretty awesome.
Well, by Marx's standpoint, apparently you need a PhD from MIT to not be
in the dumbass.
No, we have one, but that's really what it comes down to. It's because what I will tell people is this, and we're actually looking at trying to put a panel at PAX East that might involve some of this. Hopefully you guys will go. If not, I'll represent. But the game industry is like Vegas was in the 50s, man. Like, when you're dealing with community managers, especially Scooter, who, David Bass, like, they will give you bits of information, or they will tell you something, and then they'll just sit back and watch to see if you leak it on Twitter or Facebook or on your website where anybody can see it. And they'll just sit back and see if you can hold on to that information. And if you can pass that test, then they'll give you some more information, or they'll set up meetings, or you'll have conversations, and they'll tell you stuff about the game that is off the record, right? So it's almost like,
now you're getting everybody mad at us, Taylor. Like, 'cause now they're all like, all the shit these guys know that they can't talk about. He's right.
But I'm just saying, like, if you want to get out there, I got to take a drink.
He's like, I got to drink.
That's some of the special stuff you got to do, and all that ends up being is, do you have common sense? Do you have respect for what you're doing? Do you have respect for these people? Because this is their livelihood. It's a game to us, but this is their life that they put 2-3 years into, and then they're hoping to keep their job for 2-3 more years after lunch. And so if you can respect all those things, keep a secret, hold their confidence, and then help them test the game in a credible manner, and then provide them feedback, not just, hey, I got it, I'm in beta, this is fun, this sucks, I'm going back to WoW. If you can actually provide them some value and try to show them what is wrong and explain to them why this is boring, because there are some games that have some great systems that just suck because they're not fun. If you can quantify why it is not fun and why your definition of why it's not fun matters more than a financial obligation of them fixing it, because it's like building a car. I'm going to leave it broke enough until I have to have a recall. Like, how bad does it have to need to be before I have to do a recall? You see? If it's good enough for right now, and we'll fix it after launch, but I got some more glaring things that I need to fix before that, then you have credibility. But if you're like, this sucks, yeah, that's just noise. They're not going to listen to you. So,
Gamebreaker Nation full of dumbasses coming to a game near you.
To a theater near you.
What about, you guys know anything about this? I don't know much about this, but I heard about, I kind of thought of this talking on the point of Jeremy talking about bigger publishers wanting to take some of the heat off. Did you guys read about this? What's this story about Square Enix setting up their own Kickstarter? Did you see this? Does anybody know about this? My loan? Because I don't really know the details.
I don't know about that, but I know that a lot of people who are like already rich have started doing Kickstarters, like Stallone and other people, for like little pet projects, so they don't have to try to find funding for it. So maybe it's the same kind of deal.
I don't know. I'm a fan of it. I don't think there's a problem with it. I think it's amazing what Kickstarter can do, but I just didn't know what Square Enix was actually doing with it. It's something about like kickstarting your project, your game. I don't know. We'll find out. So there's what else I got? Senior game designer Bill Durham making words on Twitter. But first, I want to tell you guys about Audible. If you guys have not checked out Audible. Love Audible. Another one of our sponsors here on Gamebreaker and across all of our sites. I just pulled this one up recently. This is something I listened to as a kid, and I absolutely loved it. You guys H.G. Wells fans? You listen to War of the Worlds?
Sure, yeah.
God, yeah. I'd love listening to this as a kid. Check this out. Let me play the sample list.
And hardened their hearts. And looking across space with instruments and intelligences such as we have scarcely dreamed of, they see at its nearest distance, only 35 million of miles sunward of them, a morning star of hope. Our own warmer planet, green with vegetation and grey with water, with a cloudy atmosphere eloquent of fertility, with glimpses through its drifting cloud wisps of broad stretches of populous country and narrow, navy-crowded seas. And we men, the creatures who inhabit this earth, must be to them at least as alien and lowly as are the monkeys and lemurs to us. The intellectual side of man already admits that life is an incessant struggle for existence, and it would seem that this too is the belief of the minds upon Mars. Their world is far gone in its cooling, and this world is still crowded with life, but crowded only with what they regard as inferior animals.
If you have never listened to the War of the Worlds, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's great. This one coming in about 6 hours, written by H.G. Wells. And it could be yours absolutely free. All you gotta do is go to audible.com/gamebreaker, sign up, make a new account, and download the app, put it on your iOS device, your Android device, and you're gonna get one free audio book just by using audible.com/gamebreaker. So you want to make sure you want to use that URL. And then if you enjoy this service, you sign up, and there's like a monthly service, and you can say like, hey, I listen to 1 book a month or 2 books a month, things like that, depending on the price you pay per month, and then you get credits back towards books. I've been on like the 2-book plan for years, long before they were even here on Gamebreaker.tv. So love having Audible on as sponsors. Check it out. Go over to audible.com/Gamebreaker today. Sign up, make an account, give it a check it out, give it a shot, and download the app and start listening to the War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Highly recommend that one. All right, so senior game designer Bill Durham made words on Twitter confirming that the auction house and the commodities exchange would not be cross-server, but it would be cross-faction. So now the commodities exchange is where we'll be trading cred and generic crafting material. Is that correct?
Yep. So commodities exchange is very like generic item that isn't necessarily unique. There's no difference between this gold bar and that gold bar. So, just make it very easy for you to see trends of the market, be able to buy it, we don't know a lot of details about exactly how you'll interact with it, but potentially you could do like a buy order, a sell order kind of thing, and set your prices. You can see all those kind of things in a much clearer way than like a traditional auction house, where you see like, okay, this person put up, gold bars in stacks of 5, and this person put them up in stacks of 2. So which one do I want to buy, and what's the price per stack or per item, or all those details. It just sort of streamlines it, makes it easier.
So let's talk about these separately then for a second. Auction house first. I mean, what do you think of their decision here?
I think it's smart to keep it not cross-server because if you have a cross-server economy for items like that, then it really affects the way that farming works, right? So like if you're on a low pop server, and it's really easy to get those nodes because we know that that's competitive in WildStar. It's not like everyone has access to a given resource node. If you get it, then you're denying anyone else in the area.
I mean, Guild Wars 2 had a cross-server auction house, and that was really well received, I feel like.
Was it? I mean, like, I guess some people who are like buyers were, but from a selling standpoint, I didn't like it because I felt like so many of the items were just like way too cheap. People would sell stuff for way less than they could have sold it for, and so that just cut me out of the market completely because, like, so many items would armor, weapons, all kinds of things were selling for 1 copper higher than the vendor price. And so at that point, it's like, there's no point. It's just a hassle for me to actually sell items on there. And then, like, crafting materials. Well, I mean, and a lot of the time the crafting materials were sort of a drawback because of the non-competitive tagging. Like, everyone could hit that copper node or whatever. And so that was way cheaper than the produced goods. So, I mean, like, I just felt like it was hurting me. I didn't like getting involved in the economy in Guild Wars 2 because of the way that it was set up. So, I mean, that's my standpoint. I don't know about you guys, how you feel about it.
I mean, at face value, because I don't normally craft, I would care less. I just want my stuff when I want my stuff. But I can see, getting back to what we talked about, I don't know, like 6-7 episodes ago, talk about Keynesian economics, supply and demand. In that kind of forum, you could have so many more crafters than you would normally have. So crafters are normally only 20% of your server pop. Not a whole lot of people like to craft. So normally, given that, you normally have enough stuff out there to buy, and then it's a rare enough that you're willing to break yourself off of some coin to pay for the better suit. But now, if you have this, you have everybody accessible to all of those crafters. So now, instead of 20% of a population giving you something, a limited good, so the price is going to go up, right? You're going to have more supply, so the demand will probably stay constant, but the cost is going to go down, right? So it's just kind of like basic economics, and so I think they probably thought through that, because remember Jeremy at E3 met with like a bazillion folks from the Korean press, but it was in that press conference that he was basically saying that they've been actually researching. They actually hired an economist. I don't know if I told you that, but they actually hired an economist to
it's
like
pretty normal in today's MMO. Almost all of them kind of do that at this point.
I mean, again, I didn't know that until then, just because, like I said, I don't normally craft. So, I mean, just the fact that they're looking at financial models and economic systems, that's probably the advice that they got, because the supply will be too easy to get to, so it's not going to be worth as much. If I can only buy it for like 1 gold more than standard price, then who cares? It's not rare at that point. I guess that's what it comes.
So what about
to,
cross faction? Does cross faction make sense? I mean, I guess it does if the auction house is run by a neutral party.
Yeah, because it's still stuck on the same server. So you're going to have some servers that are going to have a lot of crafters, some are going to have none, right? So the less crafters you have per server, the higher the value of that item or that widget is going to be. And so by allowing it to be cross faction, you allow them to get over the hump of some of that pain by having no crafters at first. Over time, that will probably become an issue, but normally in any MMO, crafting is almost garbage as you're leveling up your first tune, right? Because you're just leveling and you're outpacing your gear, that it usually doesn't matter. It's not until your second tune or your alts does crafting really come into play, because then you can just craft stuff and twink out your alts, right? But I mean, well, it depends on how fast you level. If you level like really fast, crafting is all basically useless. If you level slowly, then crafting can be great, right?
Well, I mean, I just have this question because maybe I haven't thought about it enough, but besides like role playing or like immersion or whatever else, which they're getting around by having it be like Protostar, neutral party is the one who are running the auction house, so it makes sense for it to be cross-faction. But besides that, what is the drawback of it not being cross-faction? Like of separating and making the two economies be, separate? I'm not.
It's easier. I mean, again, it all depends. People who are really good at crafting, and especially more importantly, the markets, they'll short the market, right? Or they'll play, economic games on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll either short it or they'll, make something overpriced or whatever. They'll control the market,
right.
Just like diamonds. Diamonds in the world's economy are only value because the groups that control the diamonds that are released to the world, they control how many diamonds get released to the world every year. So that's the only reason why everyone's like, oh my God, a diamond, it's so expensive. Because it's governed, right? It's controlled by this economy. Yeah, but by this, you don't know if I'm assuming you don't know if you're buying it from a Dominion or an Exile, so you don't care. You're just like, that is fair value, I'm buying it. Done. Right?
And what about on the commodities exchange? We talk about that for a second. I don't think we're exactly clear which items actually can be put on there. So, or if certain items can actually be put on the auction house. I don't know. It's one of those things I think we have to kind of like maybe wait and see. Do you guys know? Did I miss anything? Was there any other information about that?
About which items can be put. So I'm pretty sure that it's like a cutoff where something that's unique, so something like that has a schematic, so chips on items, so it can be a little bit different. One store can be a little bit different from another store because of the random chips and things like that. That would go in the auction house because that's something that you want to see each one individually in a separate form. Whereas the commodities exchange is an item that is, like for that item, every single instance of that item, it's exactly the same as another one. So that would
cred obviously being the big commodity on there.
Yeah,
and I think cross faction makes sense there.
How many creds are you gonna have day one?
Me?
I'm gonna have like 5 of them. I'm just gonna sit there and look at them in my inventory.
Just stare at them. Not being cross faction, cross server though, is that a concern? Game time be cheaper on certain servers?
You end up grinding on a very low pop server or something like that, just so that you can get your cheap game time or something.
I mean, if it's not cross server, certain servers it could be totally cheaper to actually play the game.
Maybe that's another reason why you can't trade across server because of that.
Why would you want to encourage that?
You want to encourage that?
Why would you want to encourage that? No, why?
Yeah.
Because I think it would just piss a lot of players off.
I think that if you had the auction houses being cross-server, then you'd run into the same problem of, okay, so I'm on a low-pop server, I can gather stuff a lot more easily. Like, I can gather mineral nodes, or I can gather other things, and I can then, the money you're making per your effort is a lot easier on a low-pop server than where you have a lot less competition to, gather things. As a gatherer, I mean, if you're playing the auction house, then maybe it's different, but as a gatherer, then on a low pop server, you're advantaged compared to a gatherer that's on a high pop server, or crafter even for that matter. So I think it makes sense to try to keep things a little bit more segmented. It's easier to control as well. The economy when something screws up, then hopefully it doesn't affect all of your economy instead of everything kind of thing.
Well, another interesting thing that's going to come into play here is when we see is how they handle server transfers. Especially, just how that's all handled, depending on, if certain servers have, if cred is cheaper on certain servers, things like that, and what server transfers cost. I don't know. It could get interesting. Opens up a whole ball of yarn. Craziness. Yep. Did we talk about WildStar TV? WildStar.tv is up and running, people. I don't know if we talked about that, but go over right now. It's been live. WildStar.tv, TV. It is up. Part of the Gamebreaker Media Network, another site added to that one. More to come, but that is where you can find this show as well as all of our WildStar news right there, WildStar.tv. Mark Taylor, follow him on Twitter at GuildUmbra, and right here on UDSP every Monday at 3 Pacific. Farhan Siddiqui, follow him on Twitter at Unindel, UNINDEL. and right here. Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks for coming on the show each and every week. Insightful.
back.
Thanks.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad to be back. You can follow me at Gary Gannon, follow Gamebreaker TV, Gamebreaker TV, and for those of you looking for Hearthstone beta keys, we've got a Hearthstone beta key giveaway. Go over to Hearth Nation and enter for that and all that good stuff. And if you guys are interested in the Gamebreaker Nation, make sure to go watch last week's GBN cast. It is up on Gamebreaker.tv. Watch that. Released some pretty important information about the Gamebreaker Nation. And if you're interested in more information on the Gamebreaker Nation, which is our cross-gaming guild coming, go to GamebreakerNation.com. Make sure to put the www because there's a little server issue right now with the DNS. If you don't put the www, you're going to get a little message. Put the www.GamebreakerNation.com and stick your email address in there, and we'll be getting information out. But the website should be done hopefully this week, maybe next week, but hopefully this week. So it's coming. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for some more UDSP. Have a great week.